When Zaria Cole stepped onto that Harborview boardwalk, she thought the biggest danger would come from the crowd of fans rushing toward her. She was wrong. The real threat was standing 50 feet away in a security uniform, watching her with eyes that would soon see right through every wall she'd built around her heart. Jack Nolan was supposed to protect her body, but nobody warned him that falling for a celebrity would put his own life in the crosshairs. What started as 2 weeks of professional boundaries would become a choice between love and livelihood, between truth and headlines. Because when that photo hit the internet, everything they thought they knew about each other would shatter, and only one of them would be left standing. But here's what the cameras didn't capture. Sometimes the person hired to guard your life ends up saving your soul instead. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're from. Because this story about choosing love over fame is about to get complicated. The late afternoon sun painted the Harborview boardwalk in shades of gold. Seagulls called out over the gentle crash of waves, while families strolled past shops selling saltwater taffy and postcards. It was the kind of peaceful place where famous people rarely showed up without warning. But there she was. Zaria Cole sat cross-legged on a wooden bench near the pier, her guitar resting against her knee. Her sister Maya stood beside her, holding a small amp that ran on batteries. A single musician with a bass guitar completed their tiny setup. "Just like old times," Zaria said, tuning her strings. She wore simple jeans and a flowing white top, her dark hair pulled back in a loose bun. No makeup team, no stage lights, just her voice and 6 strings. Maya shifted the amp's position. "Are you sure about this? No security, no planned route out. That's the point." Zaria strummed a chord that rang clear in the salty air. "I want to remember what it feels like to just sing." She began with a song from her first album. Her voice carried across the boardwalk like honey, warm and rich. People started to notice. A mom pushing a stroller stopped to listen. An elderly man on a bench smiled and nodded along. The crowd grew slowly at first. 10 people, then 20. Phones came out, but they stayed at a respectful distance. Then someone shouted, "Oh my God, that's Zaria Cole!" Everything changed. The respectful circle collapsed as people surged forward. The mom with the stroller got pushed aside. Phones thrust toward Zaria's face. Someone grabbed for her guitar strap. "Back up," Maya called out, but her voice got lost in the chaos. That's when Jack Nolan stepped in. He'd been watching from across the boardwalk, where he worked security for the venues along the pier. Jack was tall but not imposing, with kind eyes and the steady presence of someone who'd seen emergencies before. He moved through the crowd like water, never pushing, but somehow creating space. "Folks, let's give the lady some room," he said, his voice calm but carrying. "She can't perform if she can't breathe." He positioned himself between Zaria and the most eager fans, then caught Maya's eye. Without saying a word, he pointed toward a small cafe 50 feet away. Maya nodded. "How about we move this over there?" Jack suggested to the crowd. "More space for everyone to enjoy the music." As people started to shift, Jack leaned toward Zaria. "There's a side exit through the cafe's kitchen. When you're ready." Zaria looked up at him. No phone in his hands, no request for a selfie, just quiet help. "Thank you," she said. Jack guided them through the crowd without touching more than necessary. A light hand on Maya's shoulder to steer her toward the cafe, a gentle gesture to keep the path clear. Within minutes, they were inside the dim cafe. Darla Pike, head of security for the boardwalk venues, had been watching the whole thing. She followed them inside, impressed by how Jack handled the situation. "Service hallway is clear," Jack said to Zaria as they reached a door marked "Staff Only." "Ready when you are." Zaria stood in the doorway, her breathing finally steady again. The chaos outside felt like a different world. "Thank you," she said again, really looking at him this time. "That was professional." Jack nodded. "Just doing the job." But as the door closed behind them, Zaria found herself curious about the man who'd helped without asking for anything in return. Early evening brought a different energy to the Harborview Theater. The old building hummed with activity as crew members prepped for upcoming rehearsals. Backstage smelled like sawdust and old velvet curtains. Darla found Jack checking exit routes near the loading dock. "Good work out there today," she said. "Just happened to be in the right place." Jack secured a prop door that had been propped open. About that, Darla pulled out her phone. I've got a situation. That singer, Zaria Cole. She's doing 2 weeks of rehearsals here. Her manager wants local security. Jack paused. I'm already covering the weekend shifts for you. This is different. Personal protection, not venue security. Good money. Jack's phone buzzed. A text from his brother Tom. Late shift again. Can you get Leo to school tomorrow? Jack thought about his 8-year-old nephew Leo, who lived with Tom after Leo's mom decided she wasn't ready to be a parent. Tom worked construction and picked up extra shifts when he could. Jack helped out whenever possible, but 2 weeks of steady work could mean catching up on bills. What kind of schedule? Jack asked. Daily, probably morning to evening. The manager's inside if you want to talk. They found Elliot Brand in what used to be the theater's small rehearsal room. He wore an expensive suit that looked out of place among the folding chairs and music stands. Maya sat nearby, scrolling through her phone, with the focused intensity of someone managing a dozen things at once. You're the one who handled the boardwalk situation? Elliot asked when Darla introduced Jack. Yes, sir. Elliot studied him like he was reading a resume. Background: EMT for 4 years, security for 2, clean record. Why did you leave emergency services? Jack was quiet for a moment. Lost a patient, young kid in a car accident, realized I wanted to help people in a different way. Maya looked up from her phone. References? Darla spoke up. I've worked with Jack for 6 months. He's solid. Elliot slid a non-disclosure agreement across the small table. 2 weeks. You follow Ms. Cole's schedule, ensure her safety, and maintain absolute discretion. No photos, no social media, no talking to press. Can you handle that? Jack read through the contract quickly. The pay was better than he'd expected. What about nights? We'll have hotel security for that. Your shift ends when she's safely in her room. Jack's phone buzzed again. Tom. Really could use the help with Leo's expenses this month. I'll take it, Jack said. After he signed the papers, Elliot handed him a printed schedule. Ms. Cole starts rehearsals Monday. Be at the hotel at 9 a.m. sharp. As Jack pocketed the schedule, he checked the bus times on his phone. If Tom's shifts ran late, Jack would need to get Leo to school before starting work. He texted Tom back. Got it covered. Walking home along the quiet streets of Harborview, Jack wondered what he'd gotten himself into. Protecting a famous singer for 2 weeks seemed straightforward enough. He'd keep her safe, do his job professionally, and earn enough to help his family. How complicated could it be? The Harborview Grand Hotel lived up to its name, even if the grand was more about charm than luxury. Built in the 1920s, it featured high ceilings, crown molding, and the kind of details that made guests feel special without breaking their budgets. Mr. Anil Patel, the concierge, greeted Zaria and Maya in the marble-floored lobby. Ms. Cole, welcome back to Harborview. Your usual suite is ready. Thank you, Mr. Patel. It's good to be home. Zaria's voice carried the warmth of someone who genuinely meant it. Jack arrived precisely at 9 a.m., wearing dark jeans and a button-down shirt that looked professional without being intimidating. He approached Maya first. Jack Nolan reporting for duty. Maya looked him over with the sharp eyes of someone whose job was protecting her sister from everything and everyone. We need to establish some ground rules. Before she could continue, Jack pulled a small object from his pocket. I believe this belongs to Ms. Cole. It was a delicate silver bracelet with a small musical note charm. Zaria's hand went automatically to her wrist. I lost that yesterday in all the confusion, she said. Where did you find it? Caught it before it hit the boardwalk. Figured you might want it back. He handed over the bracelet, Jack said quietly. I heard you sing at St. Mary's when you were 16. The Christmas concert where you did Oh Holy Night as a solo. Your voice made the whole church go silent. Zaria stopped mid-motion, the bracelet halfway to her wrist. You were there? My family went every year. You sang like... Jack paused, choosing his words. Like you understood every word. Maya watched this exchange with growing wariness, but Zaria smiled. I was terrified that night, she admitted. Mrs. Quinn, the choir director, she told me to sing it like I was talking to one person, not a crowd. Worked, Jack said simply. As Zaria fastened the bracelet, Maya stepped forward. Ground rules, she said firmly. Daily check-ins with me, no personal hangouts while you're on contract. Lines stay clear. Understood? Understood, Jack replied. Elliot appeared from the elevator, phone pressed to his ear. He ended his call and approached their group. There's a possibility of a dinner event Friday night, he told Zaria. PR opportunity with Aiden Vale. He's filming nearby and… Maybe, Zaria said, not committing to anything. Elliot frowned but didn't push. We'll discuss it later. The elevator arrived, and as the doors closed on Zaria and Maya, Jack heard Zaria say, "He listens." Standing alone in the lobby, Jack realized she was talking about him. The thought pleased him more than it should have. Mr. Patel approached with a discreet smile. Ms. Cole has been coming here since she was a child. It's good to see her with someone who remembers when she was just a local girl with a beautiful voice. Jack nodded, already understanding that this job might be more complicated than he'd thought. The next morning brought an unexpected delivery to Zaria's hotel suite. Jack was reviewing the day's schedule with Maya when Mr. Patel knocked on the door. "I'm terribly sorry," the concierge said, holding a bouquet of white roses. "This was delivered to the wrong floor by mistake. The note suggests it was meant for Ms. Cole." Maya took the flowers and read the card. Her expression darkened. It says, "I can still get to you." Jack moved closer to read the note. The handwriting was neat, almost careful. Not threatening exactly, but unsettling. "Who delivered this?" Jack asked. Mr. Patel shook his head. "It was left at the front desk early this morning. No delivery service marking, no florist tag." "Could be a fan who got carried away," Maya said, but she didn't sound convinced. Jack took a photo of the note with his phone. "I'll log this and check with Darla about adjusting our routes. Nothing dramatic, just some basic precautions." An hour later, Jack met with Darla at the theater's loading dock. They walked through the building's exits, timing routes and noting which doors staff used most often. "Kitchen entrance is best for arrivals," Darla said. "Fewer people, and we can park the car right there." "What about departures?" "Stage door if there's press, loading dock if we want to avoid cameras entirely." Jack made notes on a small pad. "Staggered timing?" "Always, no patterns." They spent another 20 minutes walking through scenarios. Nothing elaborate or dramatic, just the kind of quiet planning that kept people safe without making them feel like prisoners. As the sun set over Harborview, Jack walked the route from the hotel to the theater one more time. The streets were peaceful, filled with the sounds of a small town settling into evening. A dog barked in someone's backyard. A couple walked hand in hand toward the pier. Jack exhaled, satisfied with their simple plan. Sometimes the best security was the kind nobody noticed. The next morning at the theater, rehearsal started with the easy energy of people who love their work. Zaria ran through vocal warm-ups while the small crew tested lights and adjusted microphones. Jack positioned himself where he could see all the entrances without hovering. When one of the sound technicians struggled with a heavy cable box, Jack stepped forward to help. "Thanks, man," the tech said. "You're stronger than you look." 4 years lifting patience," Jack replied. "Builds different muscles than the gym." Darla, watching from the wings, noted his easy interaction with the crew. Good security people understood that being helpful to everyone made the job easier for everyone. During a break, the rehearsal pianist played something soft while crew members reset the stage. Zaria laughed at something Maya said, a genuine musical sound that carried through the theater. One of the backstage assistants, a college kid named Riley, thought it would be cool to capture the moment. He held up his phone and recorded a 5-second clip of Zaria laughing. Jack noticed, but didn't interfere. It seemed innocent enough. Elliot, however, was less relaxed. He texted Maya, "Keep guard stoic, no casual interactions." Maya glanced at Jack, who was chatting quietly with Darla about the evening's exit strategy. She decided not to pass along Elliot's message. Jack's easy presence was actually helping Zaria relax, and relaxed performers gave better shows. That evening, as Jack drove Zaria and Maya back to the hotel in the rented SUV, Zaria spoke from the back seat. "Good work today, Jack." He nodded, checking the mirrors out of habit. "Thank you, Ms. Cole." "Just Zaria. We're not that formal in Harborview." In the distance, a camera flash sparked from someone's phone, but it was far enough away that Jack didn't consider it a problem. He had no way of knowing that Riley's 5-second video was already making its way onto social media. Jack's morning started at Tom's house, a modest two-bedroom place 6 blocks from the water. His brother was rushing to get ready for an early construction job. "Leo's lunch is packed," Tom called from the bathroom, "but he needs help with his math homework tonight if you're around." "I'll be here," Jack promised, checking that Leo had everything in his backpack. 8-year-old Leo appeared in the kitchen, his dark hair sticking up in 3 directions. "Did you really meet Zaria Cole?" "I'm working security for her rehearsals." "Is she nice?" "She seems to be." "Can I meet her?" Jack smiled, ruffling his nephew's hair. "We'll see." After dropping Leo at school, Jack arrived at the theater to find rehearsal in full swing. Zaria was working through a song from her latest album, her voice filling the empty seats with rich, clear tones. During the lunch break, a well-dressed man approached Maya. Jack recognized him from photos, Aidan Vale, the actor Elliot had mentioned. "Ms. Cole," Aidan said when Maya introduced him, "I'm honored to meet you." They posed for a few photos together, Aidan's publicist taking shots for a magazine feature. The interaction was friendly but professional, exactly what it was supposed to be. Maya watched Jack during the photo session, noting how he stayed close enough to help if needed, but far enough away not to interfere. "He's good at reading situations," she admitted to herself. When the photos were done, Jack helped a janitor named Roberto move some folding chairs. Roberto had worked at the theater for 15 years and knew everyone in town. "You're Tom Nolan's brother," Roberto said. "Good family. How's little Leo doing?" "Growing too fast," Jack replied, "starting to ask questions about everything. That's the age. My grandson's the same way." Zaria overheard this exchange and found herself curious about Jack's life outside of work. Most of her security team remained completely professional, sharing nothing personal. But Jack seemed to genuinely connect with people wherever he went. That evening, Jack met with Elliot to review the next day's schedule. He placed a printed safety map on the table, marking all the exits and potential routes. "This is very thorough," Elliot said, though his tone suggested that wasn't necessarily a compliment. "Simple plans work best," Jack replied. Elliot studied the map. "I prefer security that blends into the background more, invisible protection." Jack nodded politely but didn't change his approach. Good security meant being visible enough to discourage problems while staying unobtrusive enough not to disrupt the work. As he left the theater that night, Jack sensed that Elliot wanted a different kind of bodyguard, someone more concerned with image than safety. But Jack's job was protecting Zaria, not managing how that protection looked to other people. The morning started quietly at the hotel breakfast room. Zaria chose a table by the window where she could watch the harbor while she ate. Maya scrolled through her phone, handling the constant stream of emails and requests that filled a pop star's daily life. Jack positioned himself where he could see the entrance while staying out of the way of other guests. Then Maya's expression changed. "Oh no." "What?" Zaria asked. Maya showed her the phone screen. Riley's 5-second video had found its way to a local blog run by Kara Voss, a woman in her 30s who covered entertainment news for the area. The clip showed Zaria laughing during yesterday's rehearsal break, with Jack visible in the background. Kara had captioned it, "Zaria's new crush?" The comments were already piling up. "Who's the guy?" "Probably just hired muscle." "He's cute though. She can do better. Just another nobody trying to get famous off her." Zaria's good mood dimmed as she read through the speculation. People were already creating stories about her life based on a 5-second clip. Jack, reading over Maya's shoulder, kept his voice steady. "We keep the plan. This doesn't change anything." "Easy for you to say," Maya muttered. "You're not the one they're talking about." Before tension could build, a young fan named Leah approached their table nervously. She looked about 15, with her parents standing a respectful distance away. "Ms. Cole, I'm sorry to bother you, but could I maybe get a picture? I know you're eating, but—" "Of course," Zaria said, her warm smile returning instantly. Jack stepped forward. "How about I take the photo so your parents can be in it too?" He positioned the family so that the morning light from the window was flattering and took several shots to make sure they got a good one. The interaction drew some attention from other diners, but Jack kept it contained to just the one family. "Thank you so much," Leah's mother said. "This is her favorite singer." As the family left, Zaria watched Jack return to his position. He'd turned what could have been a crowd-gathering moment into something sweet and manageable. That afternoon, Elliot pulled Zarya aside. "The blog post is getting shared around," he said. "I need you to put some visible space between you and the bodyguard when you're in public. Can't have people thinking there's something personal happening." Zarya considered this. "He's here to keep me calm and safe. That's working." "Image matters, Zarya. So does feeling secure enough to do my job well." Elliot wasn't satisfied, but he couldn't argue with results. Zarya's rehearsals had been going smoothly, and she seemed more relaxed than usual. Still, he made a mental note to keep watching the situation. That evening, after a successful rehearsal, the company was leaving through the theater's back hallway when they discovered another bouquet waiting by the stage door. White roses again, with the same careful handwriting. This time the note said, "I know your schedule now." Darla checked the delivery log. No record of this one either. Someone's leaving them directly. Jack examined the flowers and note without touching them. "Probably left near the loading dock again. We should adjust our exit strategy." "What do you recommend?" Maya asked. "Staggered departure. Decoy vehicle by the front entrance. Real exit through the kitchen 15 minutes later." It wasn't dramatic, just smart. While Darla coordinated with the theater staff, Zarya decided to thank the crew for their hard work by ordering pizza for everyone. The rehearsal ended with easy laughter as actors, musicians, and crew shared food and stories about other shows they'd worked on. The mysterious flowers felt less threatening when surrounded by the warmth of people who cared about their work. At midnight, Jack walked Zarya and Maya to their hotel suite. In the dim corridor outside her door, Zarya turned to say goodnight. "Thank you for keeping things calm today." "Just doing the job," Jack replied, but as their eyes met in the soft hallway light, both of them felt something shift. Not dramatic or sudden, just a recognition that their professional relationship was beginning to include something more personal. "Good night, Jack." "Good night, Zarya." As Jack headed home to check on Leo's math homework, he found himself thinking about the woman he was protecting. She handled pressure with grace, treated everyone with kindness, and seemed to genuinely miss the simple life she'd known before fame. The fact that he was starting to admire her as a person, not just a client, was something he'd need to be careful about. But for now, he focused on the math homework waiting at home and the promise to keep Zarya safe for 11 more days. Sunday morning in Harborview felt different from the rest of the week. Church bells rang across the small town, calling people to worship at St. Mary's, the Baptist Church on Elm Street, and the little Methodist chapel near the harbor. Zarya woke early in her hotel suite, drawn to the window by the familiar sound. Below, families walked along the sidewalks in their Sunday clothes. Children ran ahead of their parents, then circled back like excited puppies. She missed this, the simple rhythm of small-town Sundays. Maya knocked on her door. "You're up early." "I was thinking about visiting Mrs. Quinn," Zarya said. "She still leads the early service at St. Mary's." Maya hesitated. "Without security?" "I'll ask Jack if he's available." An hour later, Jack arrived at the hotel wearing his best jeans and a button-down shirt. When Zarya explained where she wanted to go, his face lit up. "Mrs. Quinn is still directing the choir? She must be, 70 by now?" 72 and stubborn as ever," Zarya said with obvious affection. The walk to St. Mary's took 15 minutes through quiet residential streets lined with oak trees and small gardens. A few people recognized Zarya and waved, but no one interrupted their peaceful morning stroll. Inside the old stone church, Mrs. Rosa Quinn stood at the organ, her silver hair pinned in a neat bun, her posture still straight despite her years. When she spotted Zarya slipping into a back pew, her weathered face broke into a huge smile. After the service, Mrs. Quinn wrapped Zarya in the kind of hug that felt like coming home. "Child, you look tired," she said, studying Zarya's face with the sharp eyes of someone who'd watched this girl grow up. "I'm fine, Mrs. Quinn. Just busy." Busy isn't the same as happy. Mrs. Quinn's gaze shifted to Jack, who stood nearby with his hands clasped respectfully behind his back. "And who's this young man?" "Jack Nolan. He's working security for me while I'm in town." Mrs. Quinn sized Jack up with the efficiency of someone who'd managed church youth groups for 40 years. "Nolan, you're Tom's brother. Your nephew Leo has a good voice, might bring him by for children's choir tryouts." Jack smiled. I'll mention it to Tom. As they walked back to the hotel, Zarya felt more relaxed than she had in weeks. The simple normalcy of church and old friends reminded her why she'd wanted to come back to Harborview. That afternoon, Elliot called with news. Press is going to be around Friday's show. Entertainment Weekly wants to do a piece on your return to your hometown. Jack's jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. The complications were beginning. Tuesday evening brought an interesting development. Aidan Vale had requested a private meeting with Zarya at the hotel lounge. Elliot saw it as a perfect opportunity to discuss the PR romance idea he'd been pushing. Jack positioned himself across the lounge where he could see the entire room without intruding on their conversation. Aidan was exactly what he appeared to be, handsome, charming, and completely professional. He ordered coffee and got straight to the point. I want to be honest about something, he told Zarya. Elliot mentioned a possible publicity arrangement between us, dating for the cameras, appearances together, that sort of thing. Zarya stirred her tea slowly. And? I think you should know that I can see the way you look at your bodyguard and the way he looks at you. Zarya's spoon stopped moving. I'm not interested in being part of a love triangle, even a fake one, Aidan continued kindly. You seem like a good person, and you deserve something real, whatever that turns out to be. He glanced toward Jack, who was studying his phone but clearly aware of their conversation. He seems like a decent guy, Aidan said, the kind who'd probably step aside if he thought it was better for your career. But that would be a shame. Zarya followed his gaze. Jack was helping an elderly hotel guest who'd dropped her purse, gathering her scattered belongings with patient care. It's not that simple, she said. The best things usually aren't. When Elliot joined them later, expecting to discuss publicity strategies, Aidan surprised him. I think we should skip the romance angle, he told the manager. It wouldn't be authentic, and authenticity is what sells these days. Elliot tried to argue, but Aidan held firm. He wouldn't be part of creating a false narrative about anyone's personal life. Maya, watching from across the lounge, noticed how Jack's shoulders relaxed once Aidan made his position clear. That night, as Jack walked Zarya to her suite, she sent him a text. Thank you for not hovering during dinner. His response came quickly. You had it handled. Such a small exchange, but it meant everything. He trusted her judgment. He respected her space. He was there when she needed him and invisible when she didn't. Those were rare qualities in Zarya's world. Wednesday afternoon found the theater empty except for Zarya and Jack. She'd arrived early for vocal warm-ups and discovered she was battling a case of nerves about Friday's show. I don't know why I'm anxious, she told Jack as they stood on the empty stage. I've performed in front of thousands of people. This is just 300 seats in my hometown theater. Sometimes the smaller shows are harder, Jack said, more personal. You think so? When I was an EMT, house calls were always more intense than hospital emergencies. In someone's home, you're not just treating a patient, you're in their life. Zarya nodded. This feels like that, like I'm inviting people into something personal instead of just entertaining them. Want to try something that helps with anxiety? Jack asked. I learned it during EMT training for patients who were hyperventilating. Please. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, then exhale for 6, and keep your feet planted firmly on the ground while you do it. They practiced together on the empty stage, their breathing synchronized. It should have been clinical, just a technique for managing stress, but standing close together in the quiet theater, counting breaths, felt unexpectedly intimate. Maya appeared in the doorway just as they finished, catching the end of the exercise. Better? Jack asked. Much, Zarya said. Thank you. Maya watched this interaction with growing unease. The professional boundaries she'd insisted on seemed to be blurring, despite everyone's best intentions. That evening, driving back to the hotel in the SUV, Zarya spoke from the back seat. That breathing technique really helped. Good, Jack replied, checking his mirrors. It works for most people. Outside, the lights of Harborview sparkled along the waterfront. Inside the car, something had shifted again, a deeper trust, a shared moment that felt more personal than professional. Neither of them mentioned it, but both felt it. Thursday evening brought an invitation that surprised everyone. Tom Nolan had called Jack that afternoon with an idea. Why don't you bring Ms. Cole by for dinner? Leo keeps asking about her, and Maya mentioned wanting to see the human side of your work. Jack was hesitant. I don't think mixing personal and professional is a good idea. One dinner, Jack. You've been talking about this woman for a week. I'm curious about someone who's got my brother this interested. So that's how Zarya found herself, standing on Tom Nolan's front porch at 6 p.m., holding a store-bought apple pie and feeling more nervous than she had before any concert. The house was small but well kept, with a tiny front garden and bicycles on the porch. Through the screen door, she could hear the sounds of family life, someone setting the table, a TV playing cartoons, the sizzle of something cooking on the stove. Leo answered the door before Jack could reach it. At 8 years old, he had the same kind eyes as his uncle and absolutely no filter. Are you really famous? He asked immediately. Leo, Jack said, appearing behind his nephew. What do we say when someone comes to visit? Welcome to our house, Leo recited, then immediately added, but are you really famous? Zarya laughed, the same musical sound that had gotten her in trouble on social media. I sing songs that some people like. Does that count as famous? I guess. Do you know any songs about dinosaurs? Not yet, but I could probably write one. Leo's eyes went wide. Really? Tom appeared, wiping his hands on a dish towel. He was taller than Jack, with calluses that spoke of years working construction, but the same gentle manner with his son. Tom Nolan, he said, shaking Zarya's hand. Thanks for coming. Leo's been practicing his interview questions all day. Interview questions? Leo immediately launched into his prepared list. What's your favorite color? Do you have any pets? How high can you sing? Can you teach me to sing? Why don't you have kids? Are you going to marry Uncle Jack? Leo, Jack and Tom said simultaneously. Maya, who had arrived with Zarya, covered her laugh with a cough. Those are excellent questions, Zarya said seriously. Blue, no pets, but I'd love a dog someday. Pretty high, absolutely, and that's between me and Uncle Jack. Leo grinned, satisfied with most of those answers. Dinner was simple, grilled chicken, corn on the cob, and salad from Tom's small backyard garden. The conversation flowed easily, with Leo dominating the discussion by asking Zarya about everything from touring to recording studios to whether famous people got to eat ice cream for breakfast. When Leo finally took a breath, Tom asked Jack, "How's the security work comparing to EMT duties?" Different kind of emergency, Jack said. Less medical crisis, more crowd management. Why did you stop being an EMT? Zarya asked gently. Jack was quiet for a moment, the same hesitation she'd noticed when Elliot asked the same question. There was an accident, he finally said. Kid about Leo's age, car crash. We did everything right, followed every protocol, but sometimes that's not enough. He looked at his nephew, who was carefully constructing a tower out of corn kernels. I realized I wanted to help people in situations where I could actually control the outcome. Zarya understood. You wanted to prevent the emergencies instead of just responding to them. Exactly. Maya, who'd been quietly observing the family dynamic, found herself impressed by how naturally Zarya fit into this simple domestic scene. No pretense, no performance, just a woman enjoying dinner with people who treated her like a person instead of a celebrity. As the evening wound down, Zarya and Jack found themselves on the front porch steps with glasses of iced tea, while Maya helped Tom with the dishes, and Leo worked on homework at the kitchen table. The bay breeze carried the sound of seagulls and distant music from the boardwalk. Porch lights were coming on along the street as families settled into their Thursday night routines. This is nice, Zarya said softly. It's just dinner. No, it's not just dinner. It's normal. Real. She sipped her tea. I haven't had a lot of normal lately. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Leo through the window as Tom helped him with math problems. After the contract ends, Jack said carefully, maybe we could talk about normal things. Zarya's hand moved slightly on the porch step, almost touching his. I'd like that. For a moment, their fingers almost brushed, then they both pulled back, remembering the boundaries they'd agreed to maintain. But the possibility hung in the air between them like summer lightning, beautiful and electric and full of potential. Friday morning brought the reality of Entertainment Weekly's presence. Jack stood in front of a whiteboard in the theater's small conference room, outlining the day's logistics with military precision. 2 events tonight, he said, marker in hand. Leo's school play starts at 6 p.m. Ms. Cole's show starts at 7:30. Elliot frowned. You're planning to leave during our event? I'm planning to cover both. Early drop for Ms. Cole at 6:10, secured by Darla. I attend Leo's first act, leave at intermission at 6:35, return here by 7 to shadow the load-in corridor. That's cutting it very close, Maya said. Jack had run the timing 3 times. 17 minutes from the school to the theater. Even with traffic, I'll be back with time to spare. Darla nodded approvingly. Security-wise, it's covered. I've got the perimeter handled until Jack returns. Elliot wasn't happy. What if something goes wrong? Then I handle it, Darla said. That's why we have backup plans. Zaria had been listening from her chair near the window. I think we should do it. This is about your safety, Elliot began. This is about Jack having a life outside of my security needs, Zaria interrupted. Leo's been talking about this play all week. Jack should be there for at least part of it. Maya studied the timeline on the whiteboard. What if the show runs long? Then I miss Leo's curtain call, Jack said simply. But I'll be here when Ms. Cole needs me. The plan was ambitious, but it was doable. More importantly, it meant something to Jack that Zaria was willing to coordinate around his family obligations. After the meeting, Jack packed an extra shirt in his car and checked the fuel gauge twice. He set phone alarms for each transition and mapped the fastest route between venues. That evening, he executed the plan exactly as designed. At 5:45 p.m., he dropped Zaria at the theater's loading dock 15 minutes early. As she got out of the car, she squeezed his hand once, gratitude, support, and something warmer that neither of them named. Break a leg tonight, he said. Tell Leo to break a leg too. Jack drove to Leo's elementary school with 5 minutes to spare. The auditorium was packed with families, and he found Tom saving him a seat in the 3rd row. You made it, Tom said, surprised. Promised I would. When Leo appeared on stage as the narrator's sidekick, Jack pulled out his phone and recorded 30 seconds for Tom to watch later. Leo delivered his 2 lines perfectly, then grinned and waved at his uncle in the audience. At exactly 6:35 p.m., Jack slipped out at intermission. He drove back to the theater with his heart pounding slightly, not from nerves, but from the surreal nature of splitting his evening between an 8-year-old school play and a professional concert. He arrived at 7:05 p.m. to find everything running smoothly. Maya met him at the stage door. How was Leo? Perfect, Jack said, breathing steadily. How's everything here? Good. She asked about you twice. Jack resumed his position, and the evening continued without incident, but the fact that Zaria had thought about him while he was away felt significant. At 7:20 p.m., disaster struck in the most ordinary way possible. The theater's narrow back hallway, which connected the dressing rooms to the stage, had become a bottleneck. Well-meaning donors who'd paid extra for a backstage meet and greet were crowding the space, making it difficult for anyone to move. Jack assessed the situation quickly. The hallway was too narrow for the number of people, but everyone was friendly and harmless, just excited to meet Zaria. Let's form a receiving line, he suggested to the theater staff. Single file along the wall so Ms. Cole can greet everyone without getting overwhelmed. As he helped organize the crowd, positioning himself and 2 staff members to create a clear path, Zaria emerged from her dressing room for the final pre-show sound check. The hallway was still crowded despite Jack's efforts. As she moved through the narrow space, someone bumped into her from behind. She reached out instinctively for balance, her fingers finding Jack's palm. It lasted maybe 2 seconds, just long enough for her to steady herself, smile at the donors, and continue toward the stage. But a photographer from Entertainment Weekly, positioned at the end of the hallway, caught the moment. The split-second contact between Zaria's fingers and Jack's hand, the natural way she'd reached for him, the protective way he'd helped her through the crowd. The photo would show 2 people who clearly trusted each other. In Zaria's world, that was almost as dangerous as falling in love. The show itself went beautifully. Zaria performed with the warmth and authenticity that had made her famous, connecting with the audience like she was singing in her childhood living room. Jack watched from the dark wing, proud of how perfectly she balanced the intimate and the professional. After the encore, as applause filled the small theater, Jack saw another camera flash outside the stage door. Someone had gotten the hallway photo. And probably more. As Zaria and Jack exchanged a look across the crowded backstage area, both of them understood that their careful professional boundaries were about to be tested by forces outside their control. The real complications were just beginning. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made Harborview look like a postcard. The harbor sparkled in the early sunlight, and families were already setting up for the weekend farmers market along the pier. But inside the hotel breakfast room, the mood was considerably darker. Maya's phone buzzed with notifications every few seconds. Zarya sat across from her, watching the steady stream of alerts with growing dread. "Show me," Zarya said finally. Maya turned the screen around. Kara Voss had posted the hallway photo at midnight, and it had exploded across social media. The image showed Zarya reaching for Jack's hand in the crowded backstage area, their fingers intertwined for that brief moment of contact. Kara's caption read, "Zarya's secret fling with her guard? This backstage moment says it all. Zarya's secret celebrity romance." The comments were brutal. Another celebrity using staff for entertainment? That poor guy has no idea what he's getting into. She's just slumming it with the help. He's probably after her money. This won't last a week. Zarya pushed the phone away, her appetite gone. Elliot appeared at their table like a storm cloud, his face tight with anger. "We have a problem." "I can see that," Zarya said quietly. "I'm suspending Jack pending an optics review," Elliot announced. "This kind of speculation is exactly what we needed to avoid." "It's one photo of me reaching for balance. It's a photo that makes it look like you're romantically involved with your employee. Do you understand how that reflects on your professionalism?" Jack arrived at that moment, having walked from the staff parking area. He took one look at the tense scene and understood immediately. "The photo," he said. Elliot turned to him with cold efficiency. "Your services are no longer required. A replacement will be here within the hour." Jack nodded, showing no emotion. "I'd like to finish today's shift until the replacement is briefed on current security protocols." "That won't be necessary." "With respect, sir, transition periods are when security is most vulnerable. Let me hand over properly." Elliot's answer was final. "Clear out your equipment and leave your access credentials with Darla." Jack looked at Zarya, who sat with her hands clenched in her lap. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears, but she said nothing. The message was clear. Fighting for Jack would only make things worse for both of them. "Understood," Jack said. He turned to Maya. "The replacement should know about the flower deliveries. Darla has the full file." At noon, Jack stood in the theater's loading dock, handing his security badge to Darla. She accepted it with obvious reluctance. "This is stupid," she said. "You're the best security we've had work here." "It's just business." "No, it's not, and everyone knows it." Through the stage door window, Jack could see Zarya in the hallway. She was watching him leave, and the pain on her face made him want to march back inside and tell Elliot exactly what he thought of his optics review. Instead, Jack walked to his car and drove home to help Leo with Saturday morning chores. Professional boundaries had been restored. So why did everything feel so wrong? That evening's rehearsal for Sunday's final hometown show was technically perfect and emotionally flat. Zarya hit every note correctly, moved through her staging precisely, and interacted with the crew professionally. But the spark that had made her previous performances special was missing. Mrs. Quinn, who had been watching from the back of the theater, approached Zarya during the break. "Child, what's wrong with your voice tonight?" "Nothing's wrong. I sounded fine." "You sounded correct. That's not the same thing." Mrs. Quinn's weathered hand touched Zarya's arm gently. "You can't sing like you're hiding your life." "I'm not hiding anything." "You're hiding everything." Mrs. Quinn glanced toward the empty security position where Jack should have been. Music comes from truth. When you start pretending on stage, the audience hears it. Maya, who had been listening from nearby, stepped forward. "She's dealing with some publicity issues. It's temporary." Mrs. Quinn fixed Maya with the kind of look that had kept church youth groups in line for 4 decades. "Publicity is noise. Love is music. Don't let them convince you the noise matters more." After Mrs. Quinn left, Maya and Zarya stood alone on the empty stage. "She's not wrong," Maya said quietly. "About what?" "About you hiding. You've been performing like you're afraid someone's watching and judging." "Someone is watching and judging. Half the internet thinks I'm using Jack, and the other half thinks he's using me." Maya sat down on the edge of the stage. "What do you think?" For the first time all day, Zarya was completely honest. I think I miss talking to him. I think I miss knowing he's there making sure I'm safe. I think I miss the way he listens when I talk about normal things. Then maybe the internet doesn't get a vote. That night, Zarya stood alone on the empty stage, practicing the breathing technique Jack had taught her. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6, feet planted firmly on the ground. It helped with the anxiety, but it couldn't fill the space where his quiet presence used to be. Sunday morning found Jack in Tom's kitchen, making pancakes with Leo while the morning news played softly on the counter TV. "Why aren't you working today, Uncle Jack?" Leo asked, carefully flipping a pancake with Jack's help. "My job ended yesterday." "But what about Zarya? Who's keeping her safe?" "Someone else is doing that now." Leo considered this with 8-year-old logic. "That seems dumb. She likes you." Jack smiled despite his mood. "How do you know she likes me?" "She laughed at my dinosaur questions, and she said she'd write a song about dinosaurs. People only do that when they like you." The morning news shifted to entertainment coverage, and suddenly, Zarya's photo filled the screen. The segment was titled, "Celebrity Romance or Career Mistake." Jack reached for the remote to turn it off, but Tom stopped him. "Let's hear what they're saying." The reporter was discussing the controversial photo of Zarya and her bodyguard, debating whether celebrities should maintain professional boundaries with their staff. A relationship expert offered commentary about power dynamics and public image. Jack muted the TV in disgust. "You always protect people," Tom said, sitting down at the kitchen table. "Maybe it's time to protect your own future." "What do you mean?" "I mean you're walking away from something real because you think you're not good enough for her world." Jack flipped another pancake. "I'm not." "Says who? Some manager who cares more about headlines than happiness?" "Tom, she's one person, Jack, not a world. Just one person who seems to make you smile more than you have in years." Leo looked back and forth between the two adults, sensing the serious tone. "Do you like her, Uncle Jack?" he asked. Jack was quiet for a long moment. "Yeah, buddy, I do." "Then why don't you tell her?" Tom grinned. "Kid's got a point." Jack's phone sat on the counter, and he thought about texting Zarya. But what could he say? That he missed their conversations? That he thought about her constantly? That watching her perform made him proud in a way he couldn't explain? Instead, he typed out a message and then deleted it. If she wanted to talk to him, she knew how to reach him. Sunday afternoon brought an unexpected development. Zarya stood in her hotel suite, staring at her phone as if it might bite her. "I want to see him," she told Maya. "Before I leave tomorrow. I want a private conversation." Maya looked up from packing. "Elliot won't like it." "I don't care what Elliot likes. I care about not leaving things unfinished. What if the press finds out? Then they find out. I'm tired of letting strangers on the internet decide how I live my life." Maya studied her sister's face. Zarya looked more determined than she had in days. "What do you want me to do?" "Arrange a meeting. Tomorrow night after the final show. Somewhere private. No photographers." "And if Elliot says no," Zarya's voice was firm, "then I'll arrange it myself." An hour later, Maya sent a text to Jack. "After Tuesday's final show, 10 p.m., staff parking lot. She wants to talk. No press." Jack's response came quickly. "I'll be there." Elliot found out about the planned meeting within hours. Maya had felt obligated to tell him for security reasons. His reaction was predictable. "Absolutely not. The story is finally dying down. This will just restart the speculation." Zarya looked at him calmly. "I'm going to have a conversation with Jack tomorrow night. You can either help make it safe and private, or I can walk out there without any security at all." "You're being reckless." "I'm being honest. There's a difference." Elliot realized he was fighting a battle he couldn't win. "Fine, but this is on you if it goes badly." "Everything's on me," Zarya said. "That's what being an adult means." Tuesday evening's final hometown show was everything the previous night's rehearsal hadn't been. Zarya sang with the warmth and authenticity that had first made people fall in love with her voice. The new bodyguard, recommended by Darla, was perfectly competent and completely professional. He kept Zarya safe and stayed invisible. But when she reached for balance in a crowded doorway, he wasn't the hand she instinctively reached for. Mrs. Quinn watched from the wings with approval as Zaria performed with renewed honesty. No hiding, no holding back, just truth set to music. At 10:02 p.m., the staff parking lot was quiet except for the distant sound of waves against the harbor seawall. Zaria stepped out of the theater's back door wearing jeans, sneakers, and a hoodie. No entourage, no security detail, just herself. Jack was waiting by the chain-link fence that separated the lot from the bay walkway. His hands were visible, his posture open, his heart completely on his sleeve. "Hi," Zaria said. "Hi." They stood facing each other in the dim light from the parking lot's single street lamp, two people who had been professionally careful for 2 weeks and were now free to be personally honest. "I've been thinking," Zaria said. "About?" "About not letting other people write the story of my life." She took a step closer. "About choosing truth over narrative." Jack nodded. "I've been thinking too." "What about?" "About Tom telling me I'm not good enough for your world, and you telling me I don't have to be good enough for your world, just good enough for you." Smart brother. He has his moments. The bay breeze carried the scent of salt water and the distant sound of late-night conversations from the boardwalk. Around them, Harborview was settling into its peaceful nighttime rhythm. "I don't want to trade truth for a headline," Zaria said. "I don't want to pretend this. It doesn't matter because it's inconvenient for my image. I don't want to pretend I don't care about you because I'm afraid I'm not enough. So what do we do?" Jack had been thinking about this for 3 days. "We do it right. I can't be your security if we're together. That's a real conflict of interest. But we can take time to figure out what this is without the pressure of work contracts." "How?" "Slowly. Phones away when we're together. Time with Tom and Leo so you can see what normal life with me actually looks like. Simple check-ins so work and personal don't get tangled up." Zaria smiled. "You've really thought this through." "I've had time to think." They walked toward the harbor, talking softly about ordinary things, coffee preferences, favorite books, weekend rituals that had nothing to do with fame or security or public image. No kiss yet. No dramatic declarations. Just two people choosing each other with full knowledge of the complications that choice might bring. "I have to leave tomorrow," Zaria said as they reached the waterfront. "I know. But I'll be back next month for Maya's birthday. I'll be here." They stood at the harbor's edge, watching boats bob gently in the moonlight. Somewhere behind them, a photographer might have been lurking. Somewhere in cyberspace, people might have been speculating about their relationship. But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was the choice they were making to trust each other, to build something real despite the noise of the world around them. 3 weeks passed like a held breath. Zaria returned to her regular tour schedule, performing in cities across the country while texting Jack every morning and every evening. Simple messages. "Good morning from Cleveland," and "Show went well tonight, thinking of you," that kept them connected across the miles. Jack returned to his regular security work with Darla, picking up shifts at various venues around Harborview. He helped Tom with Leo's homework, fixed a leaky faucet in their kitchen, and counted the days until Zaria would return for Maya's birthday. The internet had mostly moved on to other celebrity gossip, though Kara Voss occasionally posted speculation about Zaria's mysterious hometown romance. Jack learned to ignore the notifications. On Friday afternoon, his phone rang with Maya's name on the screen. "She's coming back tomorrow," Maya said without preamble, "for my birthday dinner, Tom's backyard, if that's okay with you." Jack smiled, the first genuine smile he'd worn in weeks. "Of course it's okay. What can I bring?" "Just yourself. And maybe warn Leo. She's been working on that dinosaur song." Saturday afternoon brought perfect weather to Harborview. The sun was warm but not hot, with a gentle breeze off the bay that made everyone want to spend time outdoors. Tom had transformed his small backyard into a party space with string lights, folding tables covered in checkered tablecloths, and enough lawn chairs for everyone. Leo had spent the morning helping him arrange everything, asking every 10 minutes when Zaria would arrive. Jack was manning the grill when he heard a familiar laugh from the front yard. His heart did something complicated in his chest, part relief, part joy, part nervous anticipation. Zarya appeared in the backyard carrying a large bowl covered with foil, wearing a simple sundress and the kind of genuine smile that made everyone around her feel welcomed. "I brought potato salad," she announced, "store-bought because I know my limitations." Leo launched himself at her with the enthusiasm only 8-year-olds could manage. "Did you write the dinosaur song?" "I did!" Zarya set down the potato salad and pulled out her phone. "Want to hear it?" She played a 30-second clip of a bouncy, educational tune about different dinosaur species. Leo listened with rapt attention, then immediately requested she teach him the words. Maya arrived with iced tea and homemade birthday cake, looking more relaxed than Jack had seen her in months. For once, she wasn't scanning the area for photographers or managing Zarya's schedule. She was just a woman celebrating her birthday with friends. Elliot appeared shortly after, carrying a folder of contracts that needed signatures. But when he saw the easy family atmosphere in Tom's backyard, he quietly tucked the folder away. "Just stopping by to drop these off," he told Maya. "We can handle business Monday." He accepted a glass of iced tea from Tom and stayed for 20 minutes, watching Zarya teach Leo the dinosaur song while Jack flipped burgers with the focused attention of someone who took grilling seriously. "She's happy," Elliot observed to Maya. "Yeah, she is. Different kind of happy than performing happy." Maya nodded. "Personal happy. The kind that makes everything else work better." When Elliot left, he shook Jack's hand. "Take care of her." "That's the plan," Jack replied. As the afternoon turned to early evening, Mr. Patel arrived with a container of homemade samosas, explaining that he'd heard about the birthday celebration from Mrs. Quinn, who had heard about it from Roberto at the theater, who had heard about it from Darla. "Small-town networking," Tom said with a grin. The party naturally migrated to the front porch as the sun began to set. Leo fell asleep in Tom's lap while the adults talked quietly about everything and nothing. Maya's plans to visit their grandmother in Georgia, Tom's upcoming construction project, Mr. Patel's daughter's wedding plans. Gradually, people began to leave. Mr. Patel with his empty container, Maya with promises to call Zarya in the morning, Tom carrying a sleepy Leo inside for his bath. That left Jack and Zarya alone on the porch steps with paper plates of leftover birthday cake. The bay breeze carried the sound of evening settling over Harborview. Distant laughter from the boardwalk, the gentle slap of waves against boat hulls, a dog barking somewhere down the street. "This was perfect," Zarya said softly. "Just a backyard barbecue." "No, it was perfect because it was real. No cameras, no agenda, no one performing for anyone else." She looked at Jack. "I forgot how good that feels." Their hands rested on the porch step between them, fingers almost touching. "I missed you," Jack said. "I missed you too." The space between them seemed to shrink without either of them moving. 3 weeks of phone calls and text messages had built to this moment, quiet, private, and entirely their own. When Jack leaned toward her, Zarya met him halfway. Their first kiss was soft, unhurried, earned through weeks of careful choices and honest conversations. No audience, no photographers, no optics to consider, just two people who had chosen each other despite every reason not to. When they broke apart, Zarya smiled against Jack's lips. "So this is what normal feels like," she said. "This is what happy feels like," Jack corrected. They sat on the porch steps as the stars came out over Harborview, talking quietly about the future they wanted to build together. Nothing dramatic or complicated, just a relationship based on truth, trust, and the radical idea that love was more important than headlines. 1 week later, the boardwalk was busy with the kind of golden hour crowd that made Harborview feel like a movie set. Families strolled between the shops, teenagers shared funnel cakes on benches facing the water, and couples walked hand in hand along the pier. Zarya, Jack, Maya, Tom, and Leo made their way slowly down the wooden walkway, looking like any other family group enjoying the evening. Zarya wore jeans and a light sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, no makeup beyond lip balm and sunscreen. To most people, she was just another pretty woman enjoying a night out with her family. But Kara Voss spotted them from across the boardwalk and approached with her phone ready. "Zarya, can I get a quick photo? Just something candid for the blog?" Zarya stopped walking and turned to face Kara with a polite but firm smile. "I appreciate your interest," she said kindly, "but we're keeping this part of life off camera. I hope you understand." Kara looked disappointed but nodded. "Maybe just a quote about your time in Harborview?" "Harborview is home," Zarya said simply. "That's all the quote you need." As Kara walked away, Mrs. Quinn appeared from the direction of the ice cream stand. She was moving slowly but with purpose, a small vanilla cone in her weathered hand. "Well, look at this," she said, taking in the group. "My favorite former choir member and her young man." She squeezed both Zarya's and Jack's hands with surprising strength. "You two look happy," she observed. "We are," Zarya said. "Good. Music comes from happiness as much as it comes from pain. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Mrs. Quinn continued her slow progress down the boardwalk, leaving behind the kind of blessing that only came from someone who'd watched young love bloom for 7 decades. As they found a quiet bench facing the water, Leo immediately started collecting interesting shells, while Tom and Maya debated the relative merits of different ice cream flavors. Jack and Zarya sat close enough that their shoulders touched, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "I have news," Zarya said quietly. Jack looked at her. "Good news or bad news?" "Good news. My tour manager found someone to handle security for the rest of the dates, someone who's not you." "That's probably wise. It means we can do this without any conflicts of interest. No professional complications, just us." Jack nodded. "Just us sounds perfect." Zarya pulled out her phone and opened a voice recording app. "Leo asked me to record the dinosaur song so he can practice it. Want to help me harmonize?" Without hesitation, Jack joined his voice to hers as she sang the silly, sweet song about prehistoric creatures that had captured an 8-year-old's imagination. No audience except for Leo, who clapped enthusiastically from his position knee-deep in shell hunting. No professional recording equipment, no perfect acoustics, just 2 voices blending together as the sun set over the harbor. When they finished, Zarya saved the recording and put her phone away. "That's going to be Leo's favorite bedtime song for months," Jack said. "Good. He deserves to have favorite songs." She leaned against Jack's shoulder as they watched the last of the sunset fade into twilight. Around them, Harborview settled into its peaceful evening rhythm, families heading home for dinner, couples sharing quiet conversations on benches, teenagers laughing as they walked toward the arcade. "No regrets?" Jack asked. "None," Zarya said firmly. "This is real. The rest is just noise." They sat in comfortable silence as the first stars appeared over the harbor. Leo had found a particularly interesting piece of sea glass and was showing it to Tom and Maya with the enthusiasm that made every small discovery feel like treasure. Jack thought about the path that had brought them to this bench, this moment, this choice. A street performance on the boardwalk, 2 weeks of careful professionalism, a photograph that could have ended everything, and the decision to choose truth over convenience. "What are you thinking about?" Zarya asked. "How sometimes the best things happen when you stop trying to control the outcome and just do the right thing." "Is that what we did? The right thing?" Jack looked at her. This woman who'd chosen honesty over headlines, who'd insisted on keeping their relationship real despite every pressure to make it fake, who sang dinosaur songs with the same authenticity she brought to concert stages. "Yeah," he said. "I think we did." As they walked back toward Tom's house, Leo ran ahead with his pockets full of shells, while Maya and Tom planned a fishing trip for the following weekend. The boardwalk was quieter now, filled with the peaceful energy of a community settling into another beautiful Harborview evening. Jack and Zarya walked hand in hand, no longer bodyguard and client, no longer afraid of cameras or speculation or what other people might think. Just 2 people who'd found something real in a world full of performance and who'd had the courage to protect it when it mattered most. Behind them, the harbor sparkled with reflected starlight. Ahead of them, a future full of ordinary moments and extraordinary love stretched out like a promise. In Harborview, where small-town life moved at its own gentle pace, some stories really did have happy endings. Epilogue. 6 months later. The spring concert at St. Mary's Church was a tradition that brought the whole community together. Local musicians, school choirs, and anyone brave enough to share their talent gathered for an evening of music that celebrated both the season and the connections that made Harborview feel like home. Zaria sat in the third pew, no different from any other community member who'd come to support local talent. She'd been in town for 2 weeks, officially for personal time, but really because Jack had asked if she wanted to hear Leo perform his first solo. Mrs. Quinn, now 73 and still directing the church choir with gentle authority, had convinced Leo to sing the dinosaur song that Zaria had written for him. He'd been practicing for months, and tonight was his debut. When Leo stepped to the front of the small church, wearing his best button-down shirt and a nervous smile, the congregation of neighbors and family members gave him the kind of encouraging applause that wrapped around a performer like a warm hug. He sang Zaria's silly, sweet song about prehistoric creatures with the pure joy that only an 8-year-old could bring to a performance. When he finished, the applause was thunderous, not because the song was technically perfect, but because it was honest and joyful and shared with people who loved him. Jack, sitting beside Zaria in the pew, had tears in his eyes. After the concert, as people lingered for coffee and homemade cookies in the church fellowship hall, Mrs. Quinn approached Zaria with a mischievous smile. "I have a request," she said. "Anything. Would you and Jack sing something together? Nothing fancy, just something that shows these people what love sounds like." Zaria looked at Jack, who shrugged with the easy confidence of someone who'd learned that the best performances weren't about being perfect. They were about being real. They stood together in front of the small congregation of neighbors, friends, and chosen family, and sang an old hymn that Mrs. Quinn had taught Zaria when she was 16. Jack's voice blended with hers like they'd been harmonizing for years, creating something beautiful from the simple decision to trust each other completely. When they finished, the fellowship hall was quiet for a moment, not the silence of judgment, but the silence of recognition. Everyone present had just witnessed something authentic and rare. Then Leo started clapping, and the entire room erupted in the kind of applause that comes from the heart. Later, as they walked home through the quiet streets of Harborview, Zaria took Jack's hand and smiled. "No regrets?" he asked, echoing the question from their first evening together on Tom's porch. "Only that it took us so long to get here," she said. Above them, the stars shone down on a small coastal town where love stories could still unfold at their own gentle pace, where two people could choose each other despite all the reasons they shouldn't, and where sometimes, if you were very lucky, protecting someone's heart turned out to be the same thing as protecting your own. In the distance, the harbor whispered its eternal song against the shore, and Jack Nolan walked hand in hand with Zaria Cole toward a future built on the simple revolutionary idea that real love was always worth the risk.